Hi, Embracing Only podcast family. This is Archita. We are introducing impact moments, actionable insights that highlight the best and powerful learning moments and wisdom from our past episodes of incredible guests. In this highlight reel, you'll hear leadership lessons from a combat veteran, taking action to be anti-racist, mastering workplace negotiations, leveraging your uniqueness for success. We'll take a topic and break it down in a short, snappy episode. So click on the link in the show notes to continue listening to these impact moments with our amazing guests. There was a quote that you posted, and it said, "Ignorance will be the destruction of man, not COVID-19. Tell me more about what you were thinking when you put that quote out there.
Around that time, there was like a lot of false information in the media floating around. You were hearing about all these cases of people dying. You weren't really getting factual information on how exactly people were dying. So there was just all these misconceptions going around at the time, as well as the US president publicly saying that this is the Chinese disease. And so it was creating just a lot of panic. And I just felt, let's just stick to the facts and not about the hearsay or stereotypes or flat out racism, in my opinion, coming from the American president killing people. It's the ignorance.
What are some of the biggest stereotypes you have had to navigate in your life? And is there a story you'd like to share?
I'll start with just a couple of stereotypes. One being female and being Black, especially in corporate America. I would notice that all of the people in power were men and mainly white men. I was in digital advertising sales for over 10 years before I transitioned into real estate. And I just noticed working for various networks such as the Weather Channel, Turner Broadcasting, as well as a couple of other ad tech companies, all of the decision makers were white males. And I just felt like in many ways, culturally within that work environment, is that we were invisible. Women, not only were women invisible, but especially Black women. So I didn't see anybody who looked like me in those higher positions. I didn't necessarily feel like I had a safe haven of executives or whoever that I could go to for career advice or advancement for that matter. So that's one stereotype. But another stereotype would be just growing up in the environment in which I grew up as being Black, female, and poor. We were lower middle class in my family. Also, there were a lot of children. I'm one of 6 children. And so there were just a lot of stereotypes from people in our neighborhood, people at church. On one particular time, I remember my mom and I went to the grocery store with my younger sister, who's 15 years younger than me. So I was 15 at the time. She was about 6 months or recently born. She was an infant. And we ran into one of my mom's old acquaintances who we hadn't seen in a while. I was holding my younger sister, and I remember the lady approaching us and saying to me, "Oh, you had a baby," meaning me. And I said, "No, this is my little sister." And then my mom confirmed, "Oh, yes, I had a baby. This is not her baby." And then the lady said, "Oh, how old are you now, Monique?" And I said, "I'm 15. And she goes shruggingly, like, "You're old enough." Basically assuming because of our situation, which she knew about, that I should be a teen parent because we're lower middle class. My mom's a single parent and has multiple children. So in many ways, she was trying to create this energy that, oh, that would be the norm for you. And that was very hurtful at the time. And that's something that stuck with me for many years. And that's just like even the way the media portrays people who grow up in environments like me. Is if you're from urban areas, if you're in a single parent home with multiple children, that more than likely you're not going to amount to much.
It is really unfortunate because it's that misinformation or those stereotypes are everywhere. And I think people don't choose to educate themselves. So it's easier to just read what's most accessible or just accept what's most accessible instead of
Mm-hmm.
really trying to understand. When you think of these stereotypes that, society put on you, so how do those stereotypes influence you to break out of those societal held stereotypes?
For me, I just use it as motivation. I saw it as this is the fuel and part of my reason why I have to rise above the situation. I have to supersede whatever society, whatever judgment society places on me. And so for me, it was easy. I'm not saying the road in which to get there was easy, but as far as my attitude toward it, it was easy. It was like, look, I always knew I wasn't a stereotype, even at a young age, even when I didn't have the language to say, you're judging me, this is a stereotype. I had something within that was just like, I'm more than this. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. I know my education is my ticket out of here, just like it was for my mother. And another misconception is that children who grow up like me or in the environment in which I grew up in is that the parents must not be educated. But that's not true. My mom actually has 2 degrees, and she has a bachelor's in business and an associate's in nursing. And she also graduated second in her class and was on a full scholarship for undergrad. So I broke that stereotype from being born. My mom already had her 2 degrees. So that was something I crossed off the list. And then I also looked at that for myself as saying, hey, my mom didn't make the best decisions later in her life, but she started off on the right path. And if I stay on that path and continue to make good choices, then I know that I can continue to break those stereotypes. And again, for me, it was my education, moving away from home and separating myself from that environment.
Tell me more about your education. You went to a historically Black university. Help our listeners understand what is a historically Black university and why did you choose to go to this university?
Yeah, so historically, Black colleges and universities are institutions that were found on the principles to help minorities, people of color to have higher education. If you think about during the days of segregation and right after slavery, there was very little opportunities for Blacks or any person of color, and they definitely weren't going to be accepted into predominantly white institutions. And so, therefore, with my school in particular, there were a couple of crusaders who happened to not be Black actually, who founded Clark College and then founded Atlanta University. And then in 1988, it became one school. It became Clark Atlanta, but it started off as a college. And the reason why I chose Clark is first visiting the school, I just felt at home. They had one of the best communication schools within the HBCU community. And that was really important to me because I knew that's what I wanted to major in. So my philosophy is I have the rest of my life to be a minority. This is the one time in my life for 4 years where I get to be the majority, where I can step into a classroom and I don't have to think in the back of my mind, oh, am I sitting in this? Did the teacher have me sit here because I'm Black? Or did she not call on me because I'm Black? Are they not speaking to me because of the color of my skin? Are people intimidated by me because of the color of my skin? Or not being able to freely express myself because I don't know how I'm going to be accepted, whether it be in clothing, the way I choose to wear my hair, or even my views on, race or anything, any topic for that matter. And so I just felt like I was fully embraced. Now in the real world, is that the way it is? Typically, no. You typically don't live and work and entertain around everybody who looks just like you. The world is a diverse place. And so with that said, this was an opportunity to build up my self-confidence and to fully explore being myself without feeling like there's this elephant in the room because of the color of my skin or even having those thoughts. It was an absolute great experience.
Monique, I never thought of it that way. I never thought of how empowering it would be to be a part of something where you're the majority.